First of all, congratulations once again to Origen and all the guys on the analyst desk for participating today. So with the victory today, Origen are the number 3 seed from Europe, joining Fnatic as well as H2K. The 3rd seed from North America will be determined later today. And as you can see, there are still 4 spots to be determined. One of them will be from North America. We've got another international wildcard team to determine, 2 from China and 1 from Korea. So this table will be wrapped up by next week. We'll know all 16 teams. What does the teams mean for the group stage and how will they be determined? Let's take a look at the group draw for the World Championships here in 2015. Teams will be seeded into 3 respective groups. Number 1 seeds from North America, Europe, China, and Korea are in Pool 1. The number 2 seeds from North America, from Europe, as well as the number 2 and 3 seeds from China and Korea, as well as LMS, will be in Pool 2. And then Pool 3 will include the international wildcard teams, as well as the number 3 seeds from North America and Europe. Now, that's a whole lot of seeding stuff. What it boils down to, 1 team from Pool 1, 2 teams from Pool 2, and 1 team from Pool 3 will be drawn into each of the groups. It's important to note that no group will have more than 1 team from the same region. So what does that mean? Let's do some examples, right? Origen, they're the 3rd seed. So they'll be taken from Pool 3. They could be going into Group 1, Group A rather. They could be joining the likes of TSM from Pool 2. If H2K get drawn, H2K will then jump to Group B because they cannot be in the same group. And then obviously one of the groups from the top of the table, let's assume it's Fnatic, they bounce to C, let's assume they draw CLG, then Amazing gets his wish and he gets to compete against CLG on the world stage. It's still very weird seeing CLG on the world stage. Doublelift on not the analyst desk is something I'm just not familiar with at all, but I wish them all the best. I wish them luck at Worlds. The group draw will be taking place before Worlds commences. Obviously, once we know all 16 teams next week, we will be revealing the specifics of the live group draw show that will take place with the PTL team. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how the cookie crumbles and how the groups shape up and shake out. And I'm especially looking forward to hearing our analysts talk about the groups and how they're going to compete with one another. So now that you get a better idea of how the groups work and how the draw is going to play out, let's head back to the analyst desk to close out the 2015 European Summer Split.
Thank you very much, QuickShot. That was very, very informative. A couple of shots fired in there as well.
Of course.
I think we should talk about the European teams at Worlds, especially now seeing some of the groups. Let's start with Origen. We just saw them playing. We saw a lot of them throughout the playoffs and the entire gauntlet that they have run. We heard them here. Neil saying, okay, if we win, it's good. If we lose, it's whatever. What can they bring to the world stage?
Well, they obviously bring a wealth of experience and a good AD carry, something you always need at Worlds, in my opinion. They have depth of strategy. We've talked a little bit about this earlier after the match too. But they're bringing a couple of weaknesses. They have time to fix it, but when they get challenged the way they did like against Rocket, and in some parts of these games, that will get completely torn apart against one of the better Eastern teams at Worlds.
Yeah, and they have that last seed as well coming in.
Yeah, so rough.
You can get like LGG,
SKT,
Coup Tigers coming in, whatever it is. I mean, we don't even know the remaining teams from China, but all of them will be insanely difficult to play against, especially because Origen, if you do make a mistake in the early game at Worlds, you will get punished so hard. And that's something they need to fix, but at the same time, you got some time now. You can be very happy with your performance so far in Europe. And as you said, they have the players who's been on that stage before, which does mean a lot.
Also, they just have been adapting patch to patch pretty well. Worlds will be played on 5.18. We obviously have no clue how that's going to look. It'll be a slightly modified 5.16. A lot of modifications need to be made still, but Origen have shown that they can adapt from patch to patch, and they've mastered 5.14 overall so far. So far, so good.
Yeah, this is really important, actually. Like, the new patch, it brings us so much new things, you know, like even more the Kaiser AD carry. We see Reckless spamming it. Neil's also playing it in solo queue. So maybe, who knows, Origen will beat SKT with more the Kaiser AD carry. We would live in a world like this.
How good would that be?
And
awesome.
I think one of the biggest benefits for Origen specifically as a team coming into a new patch is the growth of Soa, as we saw on 5.14. He was quick to pick up the Gangplank, picked it up well. If you can do that with some of the other niche picks, we've got the Juggernauts coming in here. Different style, but if he is that quick to adapt, that could be a strength for Origen compared to some of the other teams.
I'm just really, that's a great idea there. You pick Mordekaiser, how do you kill SKT? You just use them against them. You kill Faker somehow, 5 guys, then you use Faker to kill his teammates.
Gotta call Dumbledore and ask how we're gonna do that. And
call Dumbledore, get some tips, kill Faker, use him against SKT.
Don't reveal all the strategies.
Oh.
SKT were maybe watching, now they know.
Yeah, okay.
Quite interesting, though, to that point, Strons, I also heard you talking about how you view Soaz as a player, as a fellow Frenchie as well. The fact that, for instance, Gangplank, he masters it, maybe the best in the West, maybe the best in the world, as the Fisho throws around just like that.
For sure.
For sure. And you told us about how you see his growth with champions, that he goes to a plateau really quickly. How will that influence him going into Worlds, which could be a lot of weeks and a lot of different picks coming up?
Yeah, definitely. This is really like a talent from Soaz. Like whenever he picks a champion, he instantly mains it, I would say. Because whenever back in the day when you were still in CLG, I remember like Soaz could play anything, and every time he was like good and really good then. But after, I can sometimes wonder if he practiced a lot of the champion compared to someone that grows slower. Maybe the other guy will like be better than Soaz, And in this playoff, it shows up really well because between Rocket and Unicorn is only one day. But then after, in the Worlds, new champion gonna rise. I think about Darius top, for example, it's really strong. But maybe someone that will master him way more will be stronger than Soaz. So I have some question, and also to bounce back about XPK champion pool, we'll see a lot of evolution with the new patches. So I'm really curious to see what he has to bring up.
I do worry a little bit about how long it took for Origen to perfect the pick and ban phase for them. In the end, they definitely mastered the patch, but we saw a lot of the discussions, a lot of interviews with like Mithy and so on, and some of the players saying, oh, we had the wrong priority, we needed to move Braum further up, we didn't realize how OP he was, it took a long time before they picked up the likes of Azir, and so on. That kind of things can happen because you need to be able to play at the maximum level at the start of the Worlds. Because it's group stage, you got only a few games to get out of groups, Yep. So you don't have that time to always adapt in between. They need to be a little bit better than at finding the right patch or finding the right pick, at the right time.
Especially if you look at the timing for Worlds, it sounds very far away, right? So you have plenty of weeks to prepare, but the meta is still evolving, and most importantly, the meta will evolve in the dark. These teams, they will go off the grid. There are no more tournaments until Worlds starts. Some of these teams might go to Korea, may not, may get scrims with the better teams, but obviously the best teams in the world got to hide as much information as they can. That means in that 1 week that you have where you arrive in Europe, likely speaking, before the group stage, that's when you need to get rapid progression, learn very quickly, and that's where we might see where Origen drop the ball, potentially or not, where they can adapt to the patch, learn from their few scrims, because that's what the teams are doing there. They're just feeling each other out. If they can take more information from you than from them, then they'll take your scrims. If they're only handing you information, they're not going to keep scrimming you, so you only have a couple of games to really learn what the teams are doing and adapt, because that's the interesting part about Worlds. All these metas collide, especially lane swaps, and one reigns supreme. We've seen this every Worlds. Yeah. Different regions play different styles, and all of a sudden, one reigns supreme, and by week 2 in the group stages, everyone is playing the exact same lane swap. Yeah,
this will be awesome, and exactly is the point. Like when you are in scrims, like there, for example, one team, let's say you scrim SKT. SKT will show up with, I don't know, Jack Stop. So then after you lose against Jack Stop, then you will play Jack Stop. Then you will play with another team in scrim. So they will see that Jack Stop is strong, they will play Jack Stop. But then after SKT comes back, they find something to counter Jack. So then you play the counter of Jack, and everything's a circle until the point where it's Worlds. And when it's Worlds, then you have to be the most prepared compared to what you have seen in scrim. And this is where it might be funny.
It's Worlds.
Yeah,
It's like you guys are saying. I'm not even saying it. Oh, you guys just said it.
Okay, fine.
Some of the changes that have been
Worlds
soon. We had that yesterday.
You'll realize it.
Some of the changes that have been made to the format, though, do make the whole scrimming for Worlds a little bit different than it has been before, because now you can't have 2 teams from the same region in the same group. They'll bounce across. That means the European teams can scrim each other, which means somebody's going to get scrim against Fnatic, potentially. And the #1 seeded teams can't predict who they'll end up facing going out into the bracket stage. So it's not like Fnatic can just say, hey, we'll scrim SKT every week, because they may end up randomized against them. So
I mean, it's a good start, though, if you get to scrim
right,
SKT
of course,
every week.
Of course.
Yeah, then you'll take the quarterfinals after. And yeah, they might be annoying, but remember, there will be changes. Like, after the group stage, people figure out, okay, this pick didn't work, this pick didn't work. So even though it happened scrimming the same team for like 3 weeks, they will have to change and adapt leading into the quarterfinal. But really, just when it comes to the Worlds format, when it comes to the Gauntlet, playoffs, I mean, consistency is key. Because when you now play 3 best out of 5s, or potentially 3 best out of 5s over these days here from Saturday to now, it's about how well you perform consistently. Because you can't always just go in and try and surprise your team or try and like outsmart them. If you consistently are good enough to set yourself in situations where you outplay them, I know it sounds very buzzwordy, whatever, but that is how it is. I mean, same for Worlds.
Analysis.
There you go. Be consistent, you will win games.
Win conditions Identify
consistent.
them. It was really nice. Yesterday you coined lose conditions or loss conditions.
I'm very familiar with loose conditions. That's why I just looked at that aspect.
We keep talking about the Worlds format, and of course we're coming out of the OG game and the Gauntlet, so we're talking about OG. I almost feel like we don't talk about H2K all that much because we have Fnatic as one of, the front runners, and then we have OG coming in as a third seed. Let's talk a little bit about H2K because they've almost snuck through and they deserve their spot, but we can't really tell that much about them.
Well, the seeds right now going into Worlds for people that don't know, it's Fnatic number 1, H2K 2, Origen 3. In my head, the ranking of the teams still is Fnatic 1, Origen 2nd, and H2K 3rd. So, debatable.
Okay.
Okay, let's start debating.
There you go.
I disagree.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay, debate's over.
All right, no, but I think H2K is pretty strong actually, and Origen like really in a rush at the moment. Maybe not the best BO5. Unicorns seem to be weak, to be honest, in this series, but they seem to be like in a rush. Even Rocket could have win actually, and I think to come back even more, the first game of the BO5 against Rocket from yesterday, I think changed the team that will go to Worlds. Because I think that if Rocket would have won this game, maybe they would have faced the Unicorn, and I think they potentially would have won. The game would have been different. But still, about H2K, I still think they are stronger than Origen because of the jungle support synergy.
I kind of want to challenge that.
I think so.
I think H2K
you will see.
are better when they have learned one single way and they're going to play that way and they'll do it well. As soon as that second week of groups changes and they have to play a different way in a week, that's where we saw them struggle. The patch changed. Everybody else started lane swapping better and H2K fell behind.
They didn't adapt to how people found counters to their
lane
style.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, looking at the semifinal where Origen played H2K, I feel like it was because Mythi and Amazing were better than Lulix and Kasing together that Origen won the matchup. So unless Lulix and Kasing can really find that synergy leading up to Worlds or leading into Worlds, I think Origen will be the stronger team. But then again, that's if they play each other. So now they got to be able to again play against all these other teams here, and they can also expose a lot of these weaknesses we see from both teams.
I just think H2K as a team has had issues adapting. When Cinderhulk came out, they had issues adapting. When they had these genius lane swaps, week 1 to, I believe, 4, they had the best lane swap in the entire LCS. We were praising them constantly because they were really moving out Oruwamne, getting him behind in CS, but using him to just dive towers everywhere. And then you have these games where H2K played SK Gaming. Lulix was walking in one by one. Kasing wasn't with him. They tried to dive. Obviously, SK knew this was coming. They just stood at their towers, zoned them off, and suddenly H2K fell apart. And this happened multiple times overall. They'll need to change their dependency on what's used for them and learn how to adapt on the fly. If they get better at that, then obviously they can do well at Worlds.
H2K was the first team together with Fnatic to kind of perfect the dives after lane swaps, which has been the most effective way of kind of play. Like after lane swap is over, you get that numbers advantage where 4 guys go top and like kill the poor top lane who tries to get a little bit of farm. You dive him instantly, and it's very low risk play because you have set up the vision in advance. They were the first team together with Fnatic to really do that well in Europe. Problem is everyone else adapted it because, again, it was clearly the best style, so everyone else learned it. And then suddenly it wasn't as low risk, high reward anymore because now teams were ready for it. They would counter it or they would do exactly the same on the other side of the map. And then suddenly H2K didn't get that advantage. So they got to show now, with a few more weeks, that they can fix some of the synergy problems we have seen between maybe jungle and the rest of the team. And then also when it comes to new lane swap, new picks and bans.
A lot of what we're talking about, though, is how H2K have done in Europe. We've never seen them outside, but I don't feel confident that any European team other than Fnatic are going to get out of groups. You look at the problems Origen has, the problems H2K has. You put them up against a number 1 seeded team for any of the other regions. And against a number 2 seeded China, Korea team, potentially even LMS. We always underestimate LMS teams.
You forgot NA.
Who? Well,
just objective.
By the way, we will be moving over to NA after this is wrapped up, but we were done quite early, so that gives us some chance to talk about this. But hey, I didn't mean to bail you out.
No,
Keep going.
It's fine. All I'm saying, this is a hole that I feel like there is a clear escape from, because I think their weaknesses will get exploited against the second-seeded and first-seeded teams from other regions.
Oh, definitely. So I think H2K overall have shown that they're not the strongest in lanes, and these teams go showing up in Worlds, they will punish you. I just can't wait for the relatively slow and steady 2v2 lane meta in bot lane, whether they're matched top lane or bot lane, to just get destroyed by Chinese bot lanes. That is what I want to see.
You want to see EU suffer, or what?
I want to see people get kills in lane. So
Actually, it's true that it has been a bit slow recently in terms of kills.
it's always max range.
Yeah, kinda. It's like, okay, we don't take any risk. It's most likely about rotations, about movement as a team and things like this. But I think that actually watching China and Korea is totally different. Yeah.
When China groups 5 people at your first red buff, 3 minutes, 30 seconds in the game, and you're not ready for this,
You take the tower and give them the red buff.
no.
I'm just saying it.
To be fair, yeah, China starts fighting 5 minutes. It'll be exciting at least to see the styles clash. That is.
It will. And
the
I
expectation.
agree.
obviously China has changed quite a lot. It's no longer the, oh, it's Chinese aggression, that's the only thing there is. No, there are some teams who are fantastic macro play. They're very good at knowing when to set up the right fights and how to start them. And then you add in the fact their individual ability of some of these players. Like
Mostly junglers.
Mostly junglers. I mean, that's a bonus, but you got some star players coming over from Korea. You have some of the Chinese players with mechanics that are just insane. So you have that together with a team who are now very good at setting up objectives and know when to fight. That is so difficult to deal with, and also why China right now is, in my opinion, the most competitive region. And if we look at it, basically, even though we haven't only seen LGD as the qualified team, the 3-4 remaining teams can all be a threat at Worlds if they manage to qualify.
Yeah, compare that to Europe, we can't make that same statement over here. We can definitely say Fnatic could do well against these teams, but then even though the first seed could potentially, you could see losing against different Chinese teams overall, and that's why it's going to be very exciting to see how that plays out. Whether EDG actually gets to Worlds, even though everybody expected them to be full on getting in there, but then
they don't expect it.
They don't expect it. They came out to say like we're very worried about this. This may not happen. So it'll definitely be an interesting end of the playoffs, or whatever it's called, the post-playoffs race.
Yeah, the regionals, which actually start Friday for China. Korea start on Wednesday. So it's all this week. So much
Not that great
more
at nomenclature.
A lot left to be. You are dropping big words, though.
That's what I do.
Anyway, a lot left to be decided. Very, very interesting discussion and a lot to discuss going into the rest of the season. It's not all over, though, yet here in Europe. The European representatives at Worlds are locked in, but it's time to look towards the bottom of the summer standings and fight to stay in the LCS. We've got Sean's right here. 2016 Spring Promotion Tournament that takes place next Saturday, September 5th, as SK Gaming and Gambit defend their spots in the LCS against Gamers 2 and Mouse Sports. All right, well, let's look at that. Sean's, of course, you've been practicing a lot with the team. You have Pinoy coming in there for you guys as well. How's that been going?
Really good, really good. Like, so far, Pinoy is doing well. The team is doing really well. They really want to fight for the LCS spot. To be fully honest, like we felt like we could do something in playoff. We could do even something in Gauntlet. You know, like we have been screaming a lot of team in LCS during those past weeks and even before, and we are doing really well. So I think we will come into this match against Mouse Sports really respecting them. We watched all the games. We know everything from them. But I think like we will be really confident and like just showing up that we can do something, like just keeping our spot for sure, but then to show that in January, okay, the patch will be totally different, but I think that as a synergy, as a team, we can do really great and go really far.
I don't think there's any question that Gambit would be heavy favorites for that match. I mean, that's the one we're all looking at saying, okay, Gambit, big favorites, they should be able to requalify. The other match, Gamers 2 versus SK Gaming, that's...
On paper, is tilted toward SK Gaming.
But then we don't really know what's been going on and how much they've been practicing. Gamers 2 have of course been super try-harding for this. We know how badly they want to get into the LCS. So that one is the tricky one to call. I think Gambit is definitely in their favor. So good for you.
I hope so. But I still think, like, just to keep an objective point of view, I still think that LCS team are stronger than a challenger team. You know, for example, even Copenhagen Wolves that ended 10th, I think they could still like compete with the first Dignitas U, for example. You know, like you cannot match them, but there is so much difference. You know, I was player before and as a challenger, and now at LCS, this is totally different in terms of playstyle, mindset of players, the way they approach the game and everything. That I still think LCS team has always a little bit of lead before even, like you see the players or anything coming up.
Only one advice, just don't give them 5 dragons.
Good advice. Spot on advice.
I think that goes for a lot of teams, though, as well.
Just avoid those 5 dragons,
Good
guys.
advice. Anyway, our coverage of the promotion tournament and those matches begins at 2 p.m. Central European time. That is 5 a.m. Pacific next Saturday. So get ready for a full day of games with a lot on the line. Until then, though, we need to sign off and hand things over to the North American LCS team for their final regional qualifier bout between Team Liquid and Cloud9. Thank you very much, Sean, for sitting in here and helping us with the analysis. Thank you guys all for watching from myself and everyone here at the EU side of things. Thank you for joining us for the 2015 Regional Qualifier, and until next time, we'll see you in solo queue.
And thank you, Shocks.
Bye.
You're welcome.
Reverse sweep.
Hey.
Sweep hype.